The rules of the bet were simple. All I had to do was meet up with my friends at the old Donnelly house right before sunset, go inside and take a few pictures of every room in the house, including the infamous attic. For that, I would receive every penny of my friend's allowance for the next 2 months. If I fail, he would get mine for just as long. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, you might think so, but that's probably because you never heard of the Donnelly house before. Everyone in my town knows of that old house's terrifying history. It's the place where Arthur Donnelly, his wife Sharon, and their 4-year-old twin boys Alan and Clyde were brutally murdered by Arthur's younger brother Walter Donnelly, a paranoid schizophrenic. As the story goes, Walter was safely tucked away and medicated in a mental institution for most of his life, but when it was discovered that the patients of this particular institution were being mistreated, it was shut down. Some of the patients were immediately relocated to other nearby facilities, but those openings were limited, reserved primarily for high-risk patients. Those who were viewed as less dangerous were either released to their families or placed in group homes with other mentally challenged people. Apparently, Arthur felt guilty for leaving his kid brother in negligent hands and decided to take him into his home. At the start of their new living arrangements, everything seemed to be going fine. Arthur and Walter seemed to rekindle their brotherly bond, and the twins loved playing with their young-minded uncle. But Sharon, on the other hand, still didn't appear to be too thrilled with having her mentally impaired brother-in-law under her roof. She spoke of her discomfort many times with Arthur and insisted that he move him into a group home, but Arthur refused, stating that he and the kids love having his brother there and that she would just have to get used to him being around. Sharon had no intention of this and made her plans very clear to a fellow housewife. She told her friend that since Arthur couldn't see the potential danger of having a mentally unstable in the house, she was going to make things a lot clearer for him. She told her friend that she was going to toss out all of Walter's medications and not refill any of his prescriptions. She figured once he was off his meds, her husband would have no choice but to see how dangerous his brother was. Sharon had no idea how right she'd be, because 1 week after she pulled Walter off his meds, he would go on a murderous spree late one night, stabbing each member of the family, including the twins, dozens of times as they slept in their beds. He was found wandering the streets at daybreak that morning, completely drenched in blood, mumbling to himself, "They were all out to get me. I had to kill them all." Keep in mind that all of this happened in a time before cell phones, so by the time the person who had discovered Walter was finally able to make it to a phone to call the police, Walter was long gone. They searched for him for days through the dense woods he was last seen near, but they lost his trail at a stream. It was believed he may have been taken in by the current and drowned. They searched for his body, but to this day have never recovered it, which leads me back to the abandoned Donnelly house now. It's been claimed by every kid looking to scare the shit out of the other kids that Walter never died that day. He just went into hiding. He hid for years in the woods and waited until the police were no longer looking for him before he returned back to the last home he'd ever known. It's been said that whenever a kid went missing in our town, it's because they either got too close to the Donnelly house or made the mistake of going inside and was snatched up by Walter, who still felt like everyone was out to do him harm, so he would kill all those who came near him. To further add to the creepy factor, one day somebody gave Walter the name, the man upstairs, since it is believed that the attic of the Donnelly house is where he chooses to stay. So you should understand now why this bet isn't exactly a walk in the park for me. But I'm saving up for a new Xbox, and 2 months of my friend's allowance will be just what I need to get that sexy beast of a system in my room. I prepared to walk into the old abandoned house just as the sun was beginning to set. My friend called out to me and told me to take his iPhone, since the camera on my Droid wasn't all that great. He wanted clear detailed photos to make sure that I wasn't just snapping pictures of the same room. I took his phone and proceeded to walk up the crumbling porch. I could feel the eyes of my 5 friends watching me as I headed inside the eerie pitch black house. I began snapping away as I slowly crept through the dark opening. With the flash of the camera being the only source of light I had to use it often. I went into the kitchen, then the dining room, and onto what I guess was the laundry room. I headed towards the front of the house and went up the stairs and took photos of each bedroom from the hallway. I leaned in as much as I could, but there was no way in hell I was fully going to go in any of those creepy fuckers. I don't give a damn what my friend said. I then made my way up the shabby ladder that led up to the infamous attic, the place that was supposed to be Walter's room when he stayed there. I cautiously raised the phone through the attic's dark opening and began snapping away, rotating my hand quickly to get every angle of the room. I heard something that sounded like a bump and quickly jumped off the ladder and bolted downstairs. I was just about to run out of the house when I suddenly remembered the basement. I was terrified and ready to go, but to leave now without taking a pic of the basement would have meant I did all of this for nothing. There was a door right underneath the steps that went upstairs. With every ounce of my being, I hoped it led to the basement because I didn't have the nerve to go any further into the house. I opened the door and breathed a sigh of relief when I saw a narrow stairway leading down. I raised the camera and snapped a photo in the dark opening, but another bump from upstairs drew my attention. I was about to disregard the noise and proceed into the basement, but then an overwhelming chill came over my entire body. I felt like I was being watched, or at least in the direct presence of danger. I said, fuck this, closed the basement door and began making my way to the front door. I was a foot or so away from it when I heard something that sounded like fast-moving footsteps that were getting increasingly louder. I yelled out shit as I ran through the front door and jumped from the porch. I raced past all my friends who were looking at me in frightful confusion and jumped onto my bike. They asked me what was wrong and I told them what I heard. I tossed my friend's phone back to him and we all pedaled away from the old Donnelly house with a sense of urgency. Later that night, I got a text from my friend that read, "Why didn't you tell us you saw him?" I text back, "Saw who?" He sent back, "Walter Donnelly." I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, so I responded, "I didn't. I just heard footsteps." It took a minute for him to reply, but then I got a picture message from him. My heart began to race as I stared at the photo I took of the basement stairs. There was the hideous face of a man leering up at me from around a corner. I must have missed it because at the time I took the picture, I was looking up for the noise I had heard above me. I don't know why I did it, but I looked up Walter Donnelly and compared a clear image of him to the one I took of the basement. The man in the basement was older, heavier, and much dirtier, but I knew without a doubt it was Walter. As I spent what would be a mostly sleepless night in my bed, my mind did a lot of thinking and worrying. What would have happened to me if I would have gone to the bottom of those stairs? The mere thought was horrifying. I could still hear clearly, as if it were happening now, the sound of those footsteps. I initially had thought that they were coming from upstairs, but after seeing that picture, I knew for certain that they were coming from him as he raced up the basement stairs. He was coming for me, and had I not closed that basement door or gotten out of that house so fast, I strongly believe I never would have been seen alive again. Fucked up thing is, I can't even tell my parents about it. I'd almost be in more trouble than I would be back at the Donnelly house if they found out. I can't believe I put my life on the line for some measly money and a game console. All I know is that my friend better not fuck around with my money. This whole situation has left me a mental and emotional wreck, and if he tries to renege, I may just end up flipping out on his ass. Not as badly as Walter Donnelly flipped out on his family so many years ago, but I can promise, the shit's gonna get real.